I'm Elson Christopher T. Sweego III. Was actually born in Van Nuys, here in California. Parents were only here a couple of years, and then we moved to Chicago where we lived for a couple of years. Then we came back maybe around 1991.
I'm Michelle. I was born in 1985, born and raised at the Bellflower Kaiser Hospital.
Well, actually, I remember meeting Michelle at our freshman orientation at the Mount.
I met Kris at our nursing orientation sometime in July of 2003 at Mount St. Mary's. They asked the new incoming freshmen to stay over at the school to get to know people.
We all had to go to church, so we all went into the church and we all were sitting in the pews.
And I was in the first or second row, and then I guess Kris was behind me.
And I remember in the middle of the Mass, I was telling who was my best friend and one of my best men, Jays, I was telling him, hey, that girl in the front row, she's pretty cute. And he was looking at her and he's all like, yeah, she seems like a Kris girl. And Kris girls meaning you either have to be skinny, Asian, have glasses, and studious, which she basically hit all 4 of those marks for me. So the whole time I'm trying to think of how am I gonna meet this girl. By the time we got to shaking hands, I was like, all right, I basically walked all the pews just to shake Michelle's hand.
So the first time I actually talked to him or spoke to him was during the sign of peace when I turned around and shook his hand.
And I figured from there, that's where I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna try to get this girl. Our first date is actually impromptu.
He got a call from his sister, and we had to pick her up at, I think, their carnival at St. John's.
I actually asked her to go with me to the mall because I had to buy a CD.
So she wanted to get a CD also.
I believe it was the Emery CD, like from 2003. That was our first CD.
So then we went to the CD store.
So we're driving towards the mall,
I just had butterflies because I didn't really know what to expect.
Some guy cuts me off and we almost get into an accident. And this is the first time that Michelle and I actually gone out before and while I'm driving. So I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I was going to hold her hand to say, hey, are you okay? Or I guess I'll just put my hands to the side. And I just looked at her like, hey, you good? And she's like, yeah, at least we didn't die. So we go to the mall and I didn't even buy the CD. And
then we all went back to the dorm and we were watching the rest of Finding Nemo together. I felt like any other guy that finally got to go on a date with a girl that he liked. I'm pretty damn giddy. I can't even think of an adjective to say it, but yeah, giddy is probably the best word I could sum it up. And then I fell asleep on the bed. On separate beds. She was on one bed, I was on another bed. Nothing happened. It was strictly platonic for those good hour and a half of watching Finding Nemo. And then when we woke up, they had a whole bunch of aluminum cans at their dorm. Then my sister came and they rearranged my whole dorm and cleaned it. His sister and I just met that night and we just started talking and stacking all of their aluminum cans that pretty much filled the wall. That's a great first date. My first kiss and our first kiss, I actually think that if Michelle could even remember this, I give her mad prop. Our first kiss, it was kind of unexpected, really. But we were in Palmdale and we were actually watching Indiana Jones and wasn't the Raiders of the Lost Ark? I'm not sure which one it was, but the one where Harrison Ford has to put that sand bag thing to get a rock. It was Temple of Doom. So we're laying there and we're watching the movie and we were just eating pizza. And after Indiana Jones slides under and gets his hat, and I was telling her, man, that was a great save by Indy, huh? At that part, then he just kind of rolled over and kissed me because we were on our stomachs on the bed. So it was kind of unexpected. And then she just stared at me.
and she just smiled.
I guess we've been wanting to for a while, but it never actually happened because we didn't actually kiss until...
It took me about 2 years to kiss her. I thought it was cool that I got to kiss her on the cheek. That's how, like, I don't even know you call it traditional, because at least in tradition, like, men and women kiss each other probably within the first month. I didn't even kiss her until 2 years. So, slow and steady wins the race.
Have I found you, flightless bird,
I actually proposed to her New Year's Eve 2012.
I was with my mom on Christmas Eve, and she had her goddaughter over and their family, so we were showing them around California. But I told him I would see him for New Year's Eve. And when I called him, he seemed kind of nervous on the phone, but I didn't know why.
And so my story to Michelle was, hey, we're going to take you to the park. I have to pick up Jason and Kendra playing basketball.
And he kept asking me if I was going to, meet at the apartment on time and everything. And usually he doesn't really ask me those things, so I thought something was up, but I didn't know what.
I had Jace and my brother and Krisha take the ring and put it in the middle of the grass.
So when we went to the park, no one was there, and at the time it was probably about 5 or 6 o'clock when it was starting to get dark around sunset. And since it was December, it was really cold.
And we get there and it's totally dark, like no lights on, and she's all like, you're telling me that they're playing basketball right now on New Year's Eve? I'm like, yeah. She's like, there's no lights on. I'm like, yeah. And she's like, we're the only car in the parking lot. And I was like, yeah. And so she's like, are you so they're really here? I'm like, yeah, of course.
And he was like, oh, I don't know where they are, so let's go outside and look for them. But of course it's cold and I don't like the cold, so I didn't want to get out of the car. So I said, no, you go look for them, I'll stay in the car. So he was really insistent on me getting out of the car. So I said, okay, I'll go with you. And then he left the door open and...
headlights on. She's like, you left the car on too? I'm like, yeah.
So I was like, why are you leaving the car on with the headlights on? And, anyone can just come into the car and steal it. So I was being very logical. And then he was like, oh, we're not going to be out for so long.
So we walk into the grass and I'm like looking down. I'm like, where the hell did they put the freaking ring? And I find the ring box like right in the middle of the grass. And it's just funny that I stop Michelle after I find it and I just hug her and I tell her, so what do you think you're going to be doing for the next 20 years? And then
I just shouted out no. And I guess during the time his brother and sister were like, something went wrong. She said no.
And I'm just like, well, that's not the answer that I was looking for.
I kind of had shouted it like you're kidding me, like you're doing this right now. But of course I said yes.
And then so I bent on my knee and I just opened it, which is pretty cool because the box has a light. So when you open the box, it lights up. And then just like, I was like, would you want to spend your life with me and marry me? And she's like, yeah. And immediately everyone, hey, Kris and Michelle are married. They're going to get engaged. And like they took pictures and it was a pretty cool experience because that night we went to Jay's house for New Year's Eve and it was just cool to just spend it with all the friends. And then just to be like, hey, we finally did it. It only took 10 years, but we finally made it. What I love about Michelle is that she makes me feel like every day when I wake up in the morning that when you finally get that first kiss, you know how you feel. Well, I get to relieve my first kiss with her over and over and over and over again in the morning.
I love that Kris always makes me feel safe whenever he's around.
I think for the fact that I think we both rubbed off on each other, and she even does jokes that I would do, and they kind of probably sound douchey because I don't know if I could say this, but I'm kind of a dick sometimes. She could do it. She could be like that too. So I think for the fact that I get to wake up to her, it's probably the best feeling in the world. I
feel protected. Like he'll take care of me, and and that whenever he's around, he's always close to my heart, so I always feel safe.
she makes me feel like the only way that she can make me feel. And it's just total bliss.